This is Stephanie Thompson, EEC 4211, Service Learning Presentation. I had 18 minutes to conduct each lesson just due to scheduling. The CCT said it was in between the children returning from PE and then attending lunch, which of course has to be strictly on time. So I had each lesson was only given 18 minutes. The unit was on the human body and the major body organs and how they function and why we need them to live healthy lives. The first unit was on how activity affects the human body. Some of the objectives were that they would understand that the major organs are connected, and the activity was measuring the resting pulse and the active pulse. Another objective was to take the pulse to determine the effects of activity on the body. And the Marzano standard was engaging students, number 24, DQ5, engaging students, number 24, noticing when students are not engaged. During the guided and independent work, students were observed to identify anyone who was struggling with the concept of taking their pulse. The assessment material was informal observations, which were made during large group, guided, and independent work. The teacher will note on the observation checklist if students were able to measure their pulse correctly by the placement of their fingers. The pulse chart was a way to assess the student's ability for measuring their pulse. For example, if the student wrote on the chart that their pulse was 5, then I understood that the student needed further assistance developing this concept. Students recorded that data on the pulse chart to demonstrate their understanding and to meet objectives. The evaluation and criteria for success was again evaluating the pulse chart, and then they also were to record one observation about the differences in their body with a resting pulse versus the active pulse. And 80% of the students will show success at completing the pulse chart. Lesson plan number 2 was again the human body unit, My Amazing Brain, and this was the second lesson of the 5-day unit, and it gave the students a basic understanding of what the brain does for the body, and they were able to discover how the brain is protected in the human body and what we can do to keep the brain healthy and safe. We've demonstrated how fragile the brain is by putting eggs, or this was a teacher-led demonstration, putting an egg in separate bottles. One bottle was just a bottle with a plain egg, and I demonstrated what would happen if you fell down. The egg of course broke, and then we did a demonstration putting water into a second bottle to show that there is cerebral fluid in our brain. So our brain is protected by the skull and a fluid. I did not introduce the idea of cerebral fluid. It was just fluid, and then demonstrating with the egg in the bottle, if you should fall down or have an accident, your brain's protected by the fluid and that egg stayed whole, did not break. Service learning discussion was again how we can protect our brain during activities that are more vigorous than just walking, such as riding a bicycle. You would wear a helmet, and we showed proper how to fit the helmet properly so it would be effective. And then just briefly mention wearing sporting gear if you should be playing football. Students also used measurements and distance to see how the brain processes vision when the brain is healthy, how your brain takes 2 different pictures from each eye, but then the brain will combine the pictures into the one vision that we see, the one picture we see. A student objective was to develop understanding of the brain, awareness of some of the brain's function, and recognize that our brain needs care and protection. The assessment instrument was observation during large group, guided, and independent practice. I would notice if a student was struggling with the concept of estimating measurement to complete the brain vision activity, if the student was standing 2 feet away from an object that they were supposed to use as part of the experiment, I could understand that they weren't understanding completely the task because the directions were to stand 10 feet away. The assessment instrument was again observations during large group, guided, and independent. And like I said, if they were standing 2 feet away instead of 10 feet away. Evaluation for criteria and success was brain fact was to be noted on a sheet entitled Brain Fact to make sure they understand the concept of keeping their brain safe and healthy. 80% of students will be able to successfully describe ways to keep the brain safe and healthy during normal activities or more vigorous activities such as bicycles or sports. And 100% of the students were going to achieve success estimating the measurement to complete the brain vision activity. Lesson plan number 3 was on the human body unit, was the stomach. And this enabled children to identify the main body organ involved in the digestion process. In addition, the students also identified the importance of the stomach. A hands-on activity involving Ziploc bags pretending to be the stomach. Crackers were placed in the Ziploc bag, and students were simulating how the stomach breaks down food to turn it into liquid and provide nutrients for the body. Some of the vocabulary was stomach, saliva, digestion. The objectives were to identify the main organ involved in the digestive process and identify the importance of the stomach. Assessment instrument was observing during large group activity and monitoring questions for understanding. The evaluation for criteria and success was questions were asked during the wrap-up discussion, and students indicated their understanding, showing a thumbs up for a true statement or thumbs down for a false statement. Some of the statements were your ears are involved in digestion, which of course the students gave a thumbs down, and then if any students indicated thumbs up, that was recorded on an observation sheet to be discussed with the student during small group activity. 80% of students will show correct indication of thumbs up or thumbs down to show understanding. Lesson plan number 4 was the 4th day of the 5-day unit, entitled Why Do We Breathe? And it showed how breathing is automatic and necessary to sustain life, and students were able to demonstrate tactilely how the body feels when air is breathed into and out of the body. Students were introduced to Mr. Sad Lungs and an activity illustrating how Mr. Sad Lungs can get healthy again. The Marzano DQ5, engaging students. Number 28, maintaining a lively pace. The content objective was understanding why we breathe, identify activities that exercise the respiratory system, and explain ways to keep breathing system healthy. The assessment instrument was informal observation during large group, guided, and independent work. The teacher noted on a checklist if students were struggling with the concept of illustrating healthy activities. The independent work was developing 3 activities for Mr. Sad Lungs to participate in so he could become healthy again. The evaluation and criteria for success was demonstrating breathing in the intake and outtake of breath using tactile sensory, and students will show 80% success illustrating 3 activities to get Mr. Sadlung's back healthy again. The last lesson, day 5 of the 5-day unit, was entitled Conditions Affecting Major Organs. The students were given the opportunity to use technology to research one medical condition that can affect major organs, and they were to record in their science journal one condition that can affect the health of the body. A virtual field trip was made to a medical surgical practice to explore maxillofacial disorders that affect nutritional intake, which can jeopardize the health of a person. The student objectives were researching one medical condition using technology that can affect major body organs, recording in the science journal one medical condition that can affect a major body organ, and to also name one way the body can be protected during activities. During the virtual field trip, we looked at maxillofacial issues concerning the jaw, how some people are born with jaw problems, other people acquire them during their life through car accidents or events such as riding your bicycle, forgetting to put your helmet on, and when you crash, if you hit that hard pavement on the road, you can damage your face. And that was tied into how your health would be affected if you were born with or had accidents that affected how you would eat, which naturally would affect the health of the body. The assessment instrument was made during large group guided and independent practice. The teacher noted on the checklist if students were struggling with technology. Evaluation and criteria for success. Computer proficiency was noted for the students using the browser's scroll bar and navigation to view hands-on websites on the laptop computers. Every student was using a laptop. A website was provided for the students to research medical conditions and observe. Not part of this evaluation and criteria for success was observing navigation of website to ensure that they could locate information on websites. And 80% of students will be able to successfully complete the science journal by recording one observation about a medical condition. And that was my 5-day unit on the human body. Thank you.